Welcome to Industry Champions. I'm your host, Chris Budihas, and joining me from Rome, Italy is Walter Bianchi with Bright Vision Mortgage. Walter, how are you?
I'm doing great, thank you. And the fact that I'm in Rome should not detract anybody from calling me. Uh, as unlike a realtor, I don't actually have to be in any one particular place. I can be all over the
Yeah.
world. As long as I have an internet connection, I'm in business.
Well, it's funny. If you're here locally and you have an internet connection, you'd have issues anyway. It's amazing to see how technology has handcuffed us in many
That's right.
ways. So Walter, kind of give us a rundown on the company. So what do you guys do and how do you actually do it?
Well, Bright Vision Mortgage is a local residential mortgage boutique firm. We are no frills. We just minimize our overhead, have virtually no overhead at all, and pass the savings along to our customers. We do residential mortgages. I was going to say only, but every now and then a commercial deal pops up. But pretty much only residential mortgages, purchases, and refis. Every now and then somebody calls me and says, "Do you do refis also?" And I say, "Yes." I have no idea, so I have to say that, or it may not be obvious. So we
Yeah.
help people buy homes. There's various markets, first-time buyers buying, maybe a starter home used to be in the 100, 200 range. Now we're probably talking 2 to 300 range. Then we're talking about folks in their 30s and 40s, maybe looking at a three, four, five, $600,000 home. And then, of
Yeah.
course, people on the other end downsizing after kids move out, maybe moving back down. So there's all kinds of types of homes that we do, and as long as the borrower can qualify, we're happy to help them get their home loan.
That's wonderful. How long you been in this space?
Ooh, boy, since before we had a lot of these electronic things. I started in real estate back in the '80s in New York, and then I deviated into corporate life, and I ended up back in real estate in the late '90s in Jacksonville.
Okay.
And in the early 2000s, I got my mortgage license. So I've been doing this more than 23, 24 years now.
Well, that's wonderful. I mean, that gives you a level. I always tell folks, you got to read, you got to study, and then you've got to actually have the experience to kind of back that up. And you're really a practitioner in this space. And no doubt you've seen the change that have occurred, especially with the 2008, 2009 crisis, and then obviously that thing called COVID that we tend to forget about.
That was,
So there's people out in obviously in the mortgage space. What is like your value proposition? What sets you apart from all the others?
you know, ultimately, all of us in the mortgage, we sell a commodity, money, right? So a crumpled old dirty dollar bill is exactly the same value as a nice crisp one out of the mint. So it's your basic commodity. So what I don't really sell anything. I help people buy. What I bring to
Right.
the table is I'm doing well. I've always done well. I'm not desperate for my next deal. I enjoy helping people. I really enjoy talking to people, finding out what it is that motivates them, what their concerns are. Is it the monthly payment? Is it the cash that they need as a down payment? What can make what? How can we structure things to help them get into the home that they're looking for? Just a lot of experience. I know all the products. I hate to say
Yeah.
I know all the products, as there's probably some out there that'll pop up tomorrow that I don't know. But I've been doing this so long that I can pretty much do it in my sleep these days. And so when I talk to somebody, I can very quickly get burrow down into what it is their real concerns are and how to address those concerns. Obviously, make the numbers work, gives them good estimates and everything.
Yeah.
My tagline is: if the loan costs more than I say, I pay the difference. Period. And
Okay.
it's never happened because I quote conservatively and make sure that I under promise and over deliver.
That's awesome. No, I appreciate that. Definitely your experience in this space is speaks to the fact you're still in business. If you didn't do a good job, obviously you wouldn't have clients and you wouldn't be in business right now. So it's funny you previously brought up the fact that people looking for that first time house that they're going to buy, that starter home, if you will. And it's interesting to see the statistics in different magazines or places that around town where I'm talking to folks. So most of your first time home buyers were in the mid 20s, late 20s. Now that it seems to shift into the 30s. For that person who's in their 20s, and they're going to look for that, buy that home in the future, what do they need to be doing now in order to be in a position to get the house that they want?
Well, depending on the loan product, you really don't need a whole lot of down payment. If you're a veteran, there are no down payment loans.
Yeah.
You do have closing costs, but you can negotiate that the seller pays those for you. So if you really are strapped for cash, FHA has a 3.5% minimum down payment program. So if while you're thinking about buying them, you put aside some savings, that would help. You can also receive these funds in the form of a gift from a family member. So that even that is not necessary. But what I would focus on if I were the young person starting out, I would focus on really establishing credit, making sure that you have the right mix, maybe a car loan, 2 or 3 credit cards. You don't have to use them. Just, maybe buy something that you'd buy anyway, like a grocery bill. And then when the bill
Yeah,
comes, pay it off, keep current all the time. And next thing you know, you'll have a nice credit score. And that goes a long way towards helping you pre-qualify.
that's great. What are we missing that you'd like to bring up?
Aside from the credit score, obviously, just making sure your job. A lot of times, a lot easier to qualify as somebody who has a regular job with a W-2 and a salary,
Yeah.
rather than a self-employed person. And to my mind, that doesn't make sense because I'm self-employed in a very real sense. I look for work every day, right? I'm looking for a client. When I was in corporate life, I got downsized once, and I was out of work for a year, and that's no fun because when you're a W-2 guy, you're in a salaried position in an office. You don't have a network. You typically don't. If you're in marketing and sales, you may, but if you're in finance, like I was, you don't have a network. So bouncing back is tough. So I would recommend, if you do have a W-2 job, great. If you don't, if you're a self-employed guy, um, make sure that you have the experience needed in your job. Make sure that you don't cut corners on your taxes because a lot of self-employed people write off everything, including the kitchen sink. And next
Yes.
thing you know, when you go to qualify for a mortgage, you don't have enough income, even though you're doing fine. So there's things to be balanced. You should always work with a financial consultant too, and a financial advisor to help you not only determine what to do with your savings, where to invest that, but how to position yourself for these big life things like buying a house, getting married, having kids, that kind of thing.
No, I appreciate that. That's like, an example would be doing surgery on yourself, right? It's like, so would you really do that? So why would you try to negotiate these waters unless you're literally in that space on your own? Because you can definitely, I mean, it's the biggest thing, probably one of the biggest decisions you make, minus, choosing to get married or have children. So huge implications there. Hey, Walter, how do folks find Brightview Mortgage and how do they find you?
The website is waltbianchi.com.
Okay.
My number is, I have a 561 area code number. I won't say it here because usually I put it down at the bottom of the video, but
Yeah, yeah.
waltbianchi.com is the website. And, I'm happy to help anybody looking to buy or refi. Can't forget about
Yeah.
refis. Now, it's funny, even though rates have gone up a lot, last year I did 2 or 3 cash out refis where the borrower had like a 3% rate. They gave up a 3% rate to get a 6% rate, but it made sense because when we paid off the car, all the credit cards and everything, I was saving them over $2,000 a month. So
Wow.
even though the interest rate on the mortgage was higher, their overall cash out each month was a lot less, and they were in a much better position. And sometimes people don't think about these things. They say, "I got a 3% mortgage. I can't give that up." Well, you can if the whole picture turns out to be better.
No, that's great. And that's a great example as a use case for folks to kind of consider, get to an expert. Yeah, we will take all your contact information and we're going to put in our show notes, and I highly encourage folks to, number one, connect us on LinkedIn, and then number two, to reach out to you if they got any questions. So Walter, thank you very much.
Thank you for having me. Always a pleasure.
Always a pleasure. Yes, thank you very much. Hey, folks, continue to turn into industry champions. Hey, if you're looking for that great mortgage, take a look at what Walter's doing at Brightview. We'll see you our next segment. Live with gratitude.